Good morning. My name is Marcos Orellana. I am the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Toxics and Human Rights. This is a special procedure of the United Nations Human Rights Council that was created in the recognition that exposure to hazardous substances can have a range of adverse impacts on the effective enjoyment of human rights. It is a monitoring and reporting mandate. It is a global mandate that looks at issues of exposure worldwide. One of the priorities of the mandate for many years has been highly hazardous pesticides. This is because the use of pesticides often leads to legalized exploitation of workers, especially in the global south. The practice of export of pesticides that are banned in their countries of origin but nevertheless allowed for production for export is a form of structural discrimination that must come to an end. In this context, the mandate has looked at several pesticides that are hazardous to human health and the environment, including glyphosate. Glyphosate has also been the object of study of the mandate on toxics and human rights because of its use in armed conflict. Toxics and armed conflict has been another priority area for the mandate for a number of years. One of my predecessors devoted a thematic report to the issue. I had the opportunity to conduct a country visit to Australia, where I heard from indigenous peoples about their lived experience, the historical memory in their communities regarding the impacts and reverberations to this day of British detonations in their lands and territory. Situations in Algeria, in the Republic of the Marshall Islands, in many other countries speak to nuclear legacies. The mandate has also looked at the use of Agent Orange as a defoliant in the Vietnam War. This underlines the importance of assistance to victims, effective remedies, and environmental remediation. All of that is a relevant antecedent to letters that I sent to the government of Colombia in December of 2020 in regards to its plans at the time to reactivate its program of aerial spraying of glyphosate for coca bush eradication. The government of Colombia had for many years used and sprayed widely glyphosate in its failed war on drugs. In the context of internal armed conflict and despite the World Health Organization's determination that glyphosate is a probable carcinogen. This program went on until Colombia's own National Drug Council concluded in 2015 that glyphosate's impacts undermine the realization of fundamental rights. Subsequently to this decision, the Constitutional Court of Colombia had the opportunity to examine this issue and arrived at a similar conclusion. In my letters to the Colombian government, I highlighted glyphosate spraying's adverse impacts on several internationally protected human rights: the right to life, the right to health. In regards to the right to health, I underlined the disproportionate impact suffered by women, issues of reproductive justice that stem from stillbirths, infertility, other serious health issues. I also remarked about the adverse impacts on the right to food, the right to water, and the right to a healthy environment. Healthy soils, clean water, they're essential for human life, for human health, for growing food, for human well-being. They're also essential for pollinators. The undermining of essential ecosystem services puts in jeopardy the realization of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. All of that has had disproportionate impacts on indigenous peoples, on people of African descent. In my letters, I also underlined that a possible resumption of a glyphosate spraying undermined the peace process that Colombia had worked so hard to achieve. And that is because the construction of peace in rural areas requires a healthy environment that can sustain food production, that can sustain healthy communities. To conclude, I wish to stress that drug policies and action must respect fundamental human rights. Drug policies should not undermine the realization of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Thank you very much for your attention.